Hello Wolfpack, we're back here on Bitcoin, and I'll tell you this much, guys, not really too much is happening in the market right now for good reason, right? And there is great reason actually behind that, and the reason being, look at the last, 2 days, 2.5 days, we've literally just moved sideways, and quite literally sideways between 43k and 41.3k. We've been in a $1,300 range for about 2.5 days, 2 days, whatever it may have been. That's about let's see, let's just get the percentage on this range real quick and we can see, it's a 3% range. And that means that, there's an intense compression happening right now. Why would that be? Well, it's quite simple when you put it down to it, really. It's the fact that the Federal Reserve is holding a meeting on Monday the 14th, which at the time of making this video is about 12 to 14 hours away from the time of making this video, in which they could very well be raising interest rates, right? It's an emergency meeting. It wasn't meant to be happening this early. It was meant to happen in March. They've brought the date forward, and they're still keeping the March meeting, but they brought the date for this one forward, and the only reason I can really think of them doing that is to raise interest rates. I don't really see why they would do it if it wasn't for that reason. Now, obviously, the speculation around that, it doesn't have to be true that they're raising interest rates tomorrow, but again, what would be the predominant cause of that meeting right now? The only thing I can think of is interest rates. It's what they've been talking about for a long time. And so this means that in the traditional markets, there has been a severe lack of time to process a potential interest rate rise, okay? This was only brought forward to the attention of the market in, 1 day of traditional market opening hours. And so now, instead of having a month to react to this, the market only has 1 day. And the next day we open, which is today, right, in 12 hours, we're going to be coping with the effects of whatever happens there. Okay, so it's actually very, very important, and that's the reason why the market's been moving sideways. It's the only reason I can think of. Now, for all the people here who've been thinking, well, what about the Super Bowl, right? The Super Bowl's on this weekend in the US, the biggest sporting event in the world or something like that. I think the Olympics is, but something like that, biggest sporting event, certainly in America. And what about the advertisements about crypto? Guys, I think that's just hopium. I think that's just desperation. I don't think that's going to lead to any price action. In fact, we're at halftime in the Super Bowl right now, and it's led to no positive price action at all, right? So that's just pure desperation and hopium. That's kind of spread by Twitter influencers and YouTube personalities. It really does have any effect. It's like the same thing with people saying Thanksgiving and Chinese New Year has an effect. It's like, yeah, okay, they might have historically when Bitcoin was much lower in market cap, but right now it's just not going to do anything, right? And especially considering retail has less control now, if institutions don't want this thing to pump, it's not going to pump, right? That means, technical analysis still works to a perfect extent because it works in the same way it works in the stock market, right? The institutions look at the technical analysis, and so the technical analysis works. It's not just random. But the point is, if there's no support by institutions and market movers on a move, it's not going to move in that direction for very long. And that's what's happening here for Bitcoin. It's like, although a lot of people would love the Super Bowl to be this event in which Bitcoin goes to bloody 50k in 1 day, it just simply doesn't work like that. And so it's just hopium. But what I want to kind of say, and the reason being why the market's not moving right now, is because it's literally a perfect example, and I said this on Twitter earlier, it is the most perfect example you can ever get of the market patiently waiting, quite literally patiently waiting for the result of the Federal Reserve meeting in about 12 to 14 hours, okay? I don't know exactly when it is. I think it's 14 hours. So it's patiently waiting. And whether we see price action before that point, we could, but what I would expect is extremely high volatility tonight. Extremely high, depending on where you are. It's tonight for me, it might be this morning or tomorrow morning for you guys, wherever you're watching this video, but this volatility is going to be insane to the point in which we've never actually seen volatility this high before. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this is the most volatile day Bitcoin has had for at least a year. Okay, I could be proven wrong, but that's just my prediction. And given that prediction, we have to think, what is the most likely step for the market? Well, first and foremost, let's look at TA, then we can get into the macro question because they're two very different things right now. Well, in terms of TA, we're in ascending wedge formation, which is bearish, okay? We've had stochastic RSI peak, bearish, no bullish divergence in the RSI, bearish. We're coming in for a bearish MACD cross, bearish. On the weekly chart, let's look what happened here. Well, the weekly candle closed about an hour ago, 2 hours ago, right? And we had a pretty bearish weekly candle close, a long wick to the upside, and we closed within Ichimoku Cloud support, which is, well, I mean, we would have wanted to get back above it, so it's technically bearish, right? Bull market support band was still below that. In fact, we nearly rejected off of it, which is bearish. In terms of Gaussian channel, we've actually flipped the center line and closed above it, which is bullish, but this long wick is not reassuring in the slightest, okay? So I'm not seeing much technical strength here. Volume is descending in this downwards trend, but it is the weekend, and the market is barely moving at all, and so, you know, I wouldn't say that's particularly a bullish sign. I think it's just neutral. What I would say, guys, is that, well, looking at traditional markets and looking what happens when interest rates are typically raised, it's not hard to see that we are leaning towards bearish right now. If the Federal Reserve do raise interest rates tonight, we could see a massive market correction in which the DXY, which is reverse correlated to Bitcoin, will pump, right? Will pump up into resistance, and the traditional markets will reject heavily and go downwards heavily. We even just saw a double top formation on the S&P 500, and we've seen some bearish divergence there. As for the DJI, which is the Dow Jones Industrial Average, is terrible, right? We've had a long-term bearish divergence in the RSI since around November, preparing for this. We're coming in for a bearish MACD cross, and we've topped out in stochastic as well. And also we've just formed a lower high. And so these two markets look terrible, and the DXY looks bullish. And the DXY, as you would know, is reverse correlated to Bitcoin. So in the May bottom here, the DXY started heading up when Bitcoin moved down. DXY started heading up when Bitcoin moved down. And in the previous bear market, the DXY started heading up when Bitcoin moved down into a bear market. Okay, so this thing's reverse correlated. It's heading up into resistance. It's had a double bottom formation, and it's got a pink uptrending level of support. And so that's very bullish, and that's very bearish for Bitcoin. So I would recommend to every single person in the market right now, every single person in the market, if you are in profit on any positions, get out. Get out of the market. That's what I would be doing if I was in your shoes. That's not my, you know, I'm not going to tell you need to do that. That's what I'd be doing if I was in your shoes. There's a difference between that being advice, and that's what I would do. I would be getting the hell out, or at least setting a very tight stop loss, because things could get very, very messy in a very unpredictable manner when these interest rates are risen or potentially stayed the same. So let's see what happens tonight, but I do not have high hopes for the market. I realize a lot of that is from speculation, but regardless of speculation or not, high volatility is something you need to be cautious going into, not overly confident going into. There's not really much to say other than that. I will be live streaming tomorrow morning, which will be about 6 hours after the interest rates come out. So on the daily candle close, I will be live streaming, and I'll catch you then, and that's probably the next time I see you, because right now in this market, there really isn't too much to talk about. Stay close. I'll be on Twitter. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next one.